Okay, let's jump right into this explainer. Have you ever wondered why a perfectly ordinary, modest mountain, maybe only 100 or 300 meters high, might actually hold the secret to immense hidden wealth? Well, you see, in mineral exploration, a mountain's size on the skyline is rarely the measure of its true importance. Today, we're going to look at the geology hidden inside and how a completely invisible boundary within the rock can actually serve as the ultimate treasure map.
Think of this whole process as a high-stakes detective story. The clues aren't just sitting out there on the surface for anyone to trip over. In this scenario, the most crucial clue isn't the elevation or some dramatic snowy peak. It's an invisible chemical boundary tucked deep, deep inside the rock. Geologists call this boundary a contact, and finding this specific contact is a massive flashing red light that hot, metal-bearing fluids once moved violently through this system, completely rewired its chemistry, and, just maybe, deposited mind-boggling amounts of copper along the way.
And that brings us to the grand prize of our investigation, Chalcopyrite. Now, this is a copper-iron sulfide, and it's literally one of the world's most important copper ore minerals. But here's the catch. How we find it matters immensely. If you stumble upon scattered grains of the stuff, hey, that's interesting. But if you find it as a massive sulfide, meaning it's formed into this incredibly dense, tightly packed, heavily mineralized rock, the grade and the economic value of that copper just absolutely skyrocket. Finding that high-grade, massive chalcopyrite is notoriously difficult, which is exactly why we need to understand the chemical traps that force it into existence in the first place.
Which brings us to Section 1, Anatomy of a Chemical Trap. Let's dig into this geological mystery.
So we essentially have two totally different rock environments setting up our hidden boundary. On one side, there's the Dolomite Alteration zone. Picture this as a carbonate-rich, totally neutralized chemical environment. Then, on the other side, we have the Muscovite Alteration zone, specifically medium aluminum muscovite. This zone is the exact opposite. It's acidic to moderately acidic, a hydrothermal environment just packed with introduced potassium and aluminum. Now, when these two entirely different chemical regimes crash into each other underground, well, it's not exactly a friendly handshake. That sudden clash of chemistry acts like a literal brick wall for those ancient flowing fluids.
And right here is the exact moment that chemical trap springs shut. Imagine these hot, acidic fluids, heavily loaded with dissolved metals, just cruising through the Muscovite zone. Suddenly, bam, they hit that neutralized Dolomite zone. The chemistry of the fluid changes so abruptly that it completely destabilizes the dissolved metals and sulfur. They simply can't stay dissolved anymore, so they have nowhere to go but out, dropping out of the fluid, forcing copper sulfides like chalcopyrite to precipitate and just accumulate right along that contact line. It's a massive geological pileup.
Moving right along to Section 2, where copper sulfides hide. Let's look at the geological settings.
This exact process actually plays out across three distinct settings where this Dolomite-Muscovite contact acts as the critical reaction front. First up, we have VMS, or Volcanogenic Massive Sulfides. Here, fluids are rising up through volcanic rock. The Muscovite acts as a sort of hydrothermal feeder pipe, while the carbonate represents a cooler, neutralized zone where sulfides can deposit right near the ancient seafloor. Second are Skarn systems. This is where superhot intrusion fluids smash directly into reactive carbonate rocks, like dolostone, forming these really distinct magnesian skarns. The contact here is just an intense chaotic reaction front. And finally, replacement-style deposits. In these systems, mineralizing fluids don't just fill empty cracks. They actually chemically replace the rock, molecule by molecule. They can completely transform carbonate units into sulfide-rich ore while somehow preserving the original rock layers. But the common thread? In all three scenarios, that specific chemical boundary is the ultimate key.
So, the really crucial point to take away here is that the muscovite, or white mica, isn't just some boring rock sitting next to the ore. For an exploration geologist, it's essentially an ancient thermometer and a chemical tracker all rolled into one. The actual chemistry of the white mica, particularly its aluminum content, tells us the ancient temperature, the acidity, and the exact composition of that hydrothermal fluid. So when you find this specific muscovite right up against the Dolomite alteration, it basically paints a giant bullseye, defining a highly focused fluid corridor for the geologist to follow.
All right, let's get into Section 3, Pathways for Ancient Fluids, because chemistry needs a structural highway.
Think of our tiny mountain as a compact cross-section of a much, much larger system. But for those metal-bearing fluids to even reach our chemical trap, they need a way to travel. Geological features like faults, deep fractures, folded rock hinges, bedding contacts, and shear zones, these act as the underground highways. They focus all that fluid flow. So if that incredible chemical boundary between the Dolomite and Muscovite happens to also be structurally controlled, let's say it's running right along a major fault line, it becomes the absolute ultimate pathway. It's not just a chemical boundary anymore, it's a high-speed structural superchannel for ancient fluids.
Okay, so we've got our suspects, we've got our trap, and we've got our highway. But before a mining company is going to sign off on spending millions of dollars to actually drill into this mountain, what other corroborating evidence do geologists need to scrape together at the scene?
Well, they're looking for the geological breadcrumbs left behind by the massive sulfides. They'll scour the area for actual chalcopyrite or abundant pyrite right near the contact. They'll look at the surface for those bright, unmistakable copper oxides, think vivid green malachite or deep blue azurite, which are dead giveaways that copper sulfides are weathering down below. They run tests for geochemical anomalies, looking for unexpected spikes in copper, zinc, silver, or gold. They'll calculate if the rock alteration is literally getting more intense the closer they walk toward the contact. And, super importantly, they'll fly geophysical surveys to scan for conductivity, chargeability, or magnetic features beneath the Earth that match up perfectly with hidden sulfides or magnetite-bearing skarn.
And that brings us to our final part, Section 4, the Exploration Playbook, a step-by-step protocol. If all those clues start lining up, the target becomes incredibly compelling. Here's the actual progression a field geologist takes. First, they carefully map the contact across the entire mountain. Second, they sample both the Muscovite and Dolomite zones, plus that crucial transition zone right in the middle. Third, they analyze the whole lot using high-tech gear like portable XRF and whole rock geochemistry to pinpoint exactly how the alteration shifts. Fourth, they bring in the geophysics to see where the contact dives underground. And finally, step 5, they drill. And this is a massive but, they absolutely must drill across the contact, not parallel to it. Why? Because the ore body trapped in that boundary could be extremely narrow, practically vertical or folded tightly over itself. If you drill parallel, you could literally miss a multi-million-dollar fortune by mere inches. And trust me, it happens.
And really, our main takeaway from this whole explainer is perfectly captured by this core concept. The visible tip of this hydrothermal system, that unassuming, modest little mountain, is telling a vastly larger story. The Dolomite tells us the rocks were reactive. The Muscovite tells us the hot fluids were highly active. But it's that invisible line, that incredibly sharp chemical change where two rock chemistries collide, that acts as the ultimate trap. That is the exact spot where the metals stop moving, drop out of the fluid, and start accumulating into immense, world-changing mineral wealth.
Honestly, it completely changes how you look at a simple rock outcropping or a modest hill, doesn't it? It leaves you wondering, what ancient, highly pressurized fluids once flowed through the Earth right where you're sitting today, and what immense wealth might be trapped along invisible geological boundaries hidden deep beneath your own feet? I hope this explainer helps decode the incredible, high-stakes detective work that goes into finding the raw resources that literally power our modern world. Keep looking beneath the surface and keep learning.